You seem hungry. Good thing your table is ready with Saturday Omaha.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.
This is Dave with Saturday Omaha. We are here on another of our Food Recognized Food series where we talk to people in and around the restaurant industry about what they like to eat, all about their business, and learn more about the wonderful people that we have in Omaha and elsewhere, as we say, because Saturday is wherever we're eating. And in this case, I have a super awesome guest, and that is Brett Geiger of Izzy's Pizza Bus. Brett, how are you doing, man?
Doing awesome, David. How are you?
I am doing really, really well. In a turn of coincidence, I suppose, it is a little bit hotter in this studio right now than would typically be, but it is also excessively hot outside as we record.
Oh, yeah. I was going to
this
say,
thing.
it's pretty much hot everywhere right now. This is crazy.
Yeah, no kidding. So for those that haven't been fortunate enough to try a pizza from Izzy's Pizza Bus, you serve a Detroit-style pizza.
That we do.
In your words, what is a Detroit-style pizza like? Or more importantly, what is an Izzy's pizza like?
We try to stay at least fairly true to the Detroit style. So Detroit inspired might be the actual best term, but yeah, same thing. So Detroit style is a pan-proofed dough. Some would call it a pan pizza, maybe a deep dish. It's not really a deep dish, but some other terms you might hear for it. So pan-proof dough, steel pan, proofed all the way to the edge with cheese, caramelized all around the top. Creates like that crunchy cheese crown on there. Typically sauce on top, not required. That's the way we do it. I like the freshness of the sauce on top.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the toppings on top, some capichar pepperonis, and get some of those on there. Get a little crisp saltiness on there. Little buckets of grease here and there,
Yeah.
So, that would be ours, pretty much in order of how it's built.
Cooked in is it 8x10?
Yeah,
pan,
our
or-
size is an 8x10. We call it kind of like a regular, or it's comparable to maybe like a medium. Some people call it a small, I guess. I'm a little fellow though, so it's it's at least a medium for me. Though I have taken down almost a full one. So
Ooh.
I mean, there's different sizes, but that size cooks really well. It's a lot of the reason for that size for me is just how well it cooks and everything, and how well it proofs.
One of the things about that pizza is you get it, and from Izzy's, right? It's cut in 4 slices, so everybody gets a corner, which
Yep.
is great. So you get that nice caramelized cheese on the edge there, and it's a little deceiving because you're like, oh, there's 4 slices to this pizza, and you'll eat a slice, and you can't stop at just one, and you'll eat 2, and then you have a really big decision to make. Odds are, if you hit that 3rd slice, you're going to be feeling really, really full by the time you hit the end of that 3rd slice. It's
I mean, that's what happens for me at least, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's there, I'll definitely go for it. Usually my wife and I split one, so I don't get that chance. But if she for some reason doesn't need it and I see it, I'm like, I'll try. There's no way I'm getting through it, but...
Yeah. Well, and it's so delicious. It's hard not to go for another slice anyway.
Right.
So
Until my body tells me no, I'm just going.
Well, so we were talking a little bit before we kind of kicked off the show here. We're going to talk a little bit about the art and science of pizza, as well as just Izzy's Pizza in general, and what's happening there. So we're going to kind of interject. I've been trying to absorb and learn as much about pizza as I can. We had Matt Frampton on here of Urban Slicer. We did a 2-part episode on making pizza, which was a lot of fun.
Yep, I've enjoyed one part of it so far.
Excellent.
I got to get into part 2.
There's that. Chef John Ray from Via Farina has been very helpful with,
Awesome.
He's loaned me a few of his books. Ken Forkish's Elements of Pizza has been kind of influential. So much so that my wife may have purchased me an entire bookshelf just for pizza books. And
There
so
you go.
it's
You're going to need
getting out
one
of
once you
hand.
dive in there. You know it. You're seeing it already.
Yes. And one thing about the pizza community that I've experienced so far, and you went to Pizza Expo in Vegas, I believe, this year.
Yeah,
right?
we've been a few times, yeah.
That is someplace that I really, really want to go next year.
You need to.
It looks so fun, and it seems, and definitely help me out here because I've never been, but it looks like it is very much focused on the mom and pop, the medium-sized pizza restaurant. This isn't like your big chains are showing up there, right?
No, you're never going to see any of that there. It's all independent pizzerias pretty much there. The only chains you're going to see are the food vendors.
Sure.
Really, And it is really, really fun. But for me, the reason I go, which is why you should check it out as a pizza guy, is the learning. You can sit in these
Yes.
classes and learn from these pros for really, it's maybe a couple $100 for all 4 days of classes.
Oh, wow.
It's not that bad. And you can just take home tons of information and just come home way smarter like every time. So
Wow, that's fantastic.
yeah, that's a big reason we go. Of course, the show floor rules. You just get to walk around, eat pizza, and experiment, try new things.
Right?
It's amazing, and see some of the dough tossing and all these things. Yeah, the competitions are always fun. But yeah, definitely a really good place to learn. That's my focus every year I go. I just look out for that class schedule and hope I learn the most I can when we go.
That's wonderful, and
Yeah.
and that's what I've kind of experienced with the yourself and folks that I kind of mentioned there too, is that the pizza community in Omaha and then the greater pizza community at large really seems to be, I guess the phrase is, a rising tide lifts all boats. Everybody shares information. Most people don't hold those pizza cards too close to the vest. They'll talk to you about
Right.
flours and doughs and hydrations and things like that. Is that kind of your experience as well?
Totally. Yeah, I'll give anyone any recipe. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, I'm so surprised you'll give that out," but it won't taste the same. Like any pizza chef can give you their exact recipe. You're never going to make it taste like that person. It
Yeah.
comes down to their process, their room, their oven, their hands just in there. Like it's completely different. For me, that's why I share all the info, because it really doesn't matter. And I've learned by a lot of people doing that for me in the first place. So I feel like I should at least return the little bit I do know.
That makes total sense. And it's so interesting that something as simple in its ingredients for the most part, flour, water, salt, yeast.
It's so simple.
And there it is. But how many different ways, depending on how you treat those ingredients, this thing comes out, whether it's a thin crust or a thick crust or a deep dish. And I guess some of the Chicago style, right, you might add a little cornmeal, or
Right.
Tony Gimignani really likes to add a diastatic malt to, if you read the Pizza Bible, like everything in there. So
Yeah, that was my first book I started with. Yeah.
oh, that's a great book.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah, and so
But yeah, there's
different
all
things
those
there.
things. I mean, blending flour, that's what we do. We blend flour, and I change it all the time. There's always something new I want to try, or all the time. Is my pizza is never perfect, but I'm always, trying to chase it somehow. So there's always something to change to oh, I've learned this. Oh, it does this. Especially the more batches you make, and the more you do it, you're just going to know it when you see it and when you feel it. So yeah, it's always fun just kind of finding a new flour, and we'll throw a few % of that in there. Depending on the season, you change the yeast, you change the water, you change the salt. So
Yeah, absolutely. And everything imparts different flavors. Or if you decide to do maintain a sourdough starter, or you do like a Polish or a Biga pre-ferment
Exactly.
in advance, yeah, it totally changes
and it can be the
everything.
exact same formula, the same flour ratios, the same water and everything. But if you throw just a starter in there along with all that, it's completely different.
Yeah.
So there's millions of ways.
Yeah.
And that's another reason, I'll share it. Even the temperature your flour is kept at is going to change it. So
Yeah.
temperature, water, where you got your water,
Speaking of where the water comes from, of course, some New York pizzerias will always tell you, it's about the water.
Yep.
And then I think it's Falco in his book says it's not about the water. So,
No, we
there's-
learned about that at Pizza Expo this last year too in a seminar. So I had to sit in on a water seminar and listen to some of that. It was pretty interesting.
Ooh, any tidbits from there? 'Cause I'm
Well, it's
curious.
something to do with the aqueduct system they have coming from north of
Yeah.
there, that just the way it's plumbed in, I think something about there's a lot less chlorine, I believe, in the way that system is designed. Wherever that water is actually coming from, just the system it goes through is a little bit cleaner than some more modern systems, less chemicals added to it, I guess.
Gotcha. So they just have, super good tap water, which that definitely works. And we were talking to Isaiah Sheese of Archetype Coffee, and he actually made some coffee in studio, but he actually has a spot locally here that actually formulates his water for him to make sure like the mineral rate or whatever is the right things. And so it's interesting how you can get into the science of that.
Yep.
For those that don't have the long-standing history of Izzy's Pizza Bus, you started the bus in Vegas, correct?
Correct.
So how did you have to change the dough or your process or things coming to Nebraska? Totally different climate and a random climate here for sure. So what happened? What was your process of switching or figuring it out?
Frustration mostly for quite a bit. that was a frustrating first few months. Some phone calls, some research, just trying different flours again. Like once we got here, we're coming from like 4% humidity to whatever it is here on any given day in the summer. So because we got in here in the summer, so I was just making really sticky dough, and the flour we used to use there wasn't available here. So I'm trying to figure out what to even use in the first place. With what the suppliers have here, it comes down to that hydration level a lot here. You just can't use quite as much as you can use in the desert, even down to the oil and everything. Temperatures of the water, temperatures of the flour, all that stuff. So
in the process of my learning, reading all of these books, I have worked to try a lot of the recipes out of these books and the techniques out of these books and make the author's pizza. And one of the things that I've been trying to figure out is, what is Dave Zorko's pizza? What do I want it to be? Things I've written down are, I would like when the dough is cooked, I'd like to smell it and smell something good. I want it to smell like something. I would like these different attributes. So when you're trying to adapt to the new climate or new flour, like how do you go about evaluating, knowing that you're turning out the product that you want to at each stage, I guess?
Just cooking lots of them, really. For me, in the end, it's all about just like trying one. And with pizza, as unfortunately it takes a few days because of the dough fermenting and then everything proofing and just finally getting to use it. It's not something like, I can go make a batch and test it,
right? So
it is a long process, unfortunately. But and then the bags of flour we buy is 50 pounds. Have to go through like a ton of it before you switch to another one, and you're like, ooh, maybe this one rises better, or this one lasts longer in the heat. There's a lot of things, just because we're mobile and we have to do everything at the mercy of pretty much whatever the weather is, where a lot of our processes are based on that. I'll just go until I'm looking for, the right amount of rise that lasts X amount of hours in X heat, in that season. And that's going to work for me, at least for a while. For our style of pizza too, I prefer to do a fresh bake. Some people will do the par bake.
Sure.
Which is, the partially baked doughs, just so you can kind of get that bread set, and then you can just do whatever. I'll use those if we have to, based on the weather. We prefer a fresh bake. So whatever I can do to try to figure that dough out where it's going to last, and give us what we're looking for.
It's kind of interesting, you could make a same day dough, but a lot of the...
Yeah, I've done it a bunch, but...
to build that flavor, though, is what you're really looking for there. And with yours, do you do like a cold ferment, or how do you... Okay, and so kind of walk me through the creation process. Do you have a sourdough starter? Do you do a poolish? How do you put your dough together?
We'll just do kind of a direct mix method right now, just because commissary life, at least up until now, it's getting a little more regular being our spot we have now. But it's kind of just been random rooms or random warehouses and not really temperature controlled. So I haven't ever added a starter to our business dough. I played with them at home is all about. So now it's just flour, water, yeast, salt, and oil. Like I said, that mixture varies depending on the weather, but we'll mix it up. Just got a brand new mixer. And
nice.
That's another
new toys.
Reason, oh man, it's another reason it stinks to take this week off, because I got this big giant mixer and I've used it once. I'm like dying to use it. So yeah, I'll just throw everything in the mixer. We use a spiral mixer. I don't know if you've any experience with those. It's
a little bit more of a corkscrew type scenario there. Nice
and gentle on the dough. You can fit a lot in a spiral mixer bowl, just the way it operates too. So it's space-wise, it's kind of nice too.
Yeah.
I just like the way it mixes dough. It's awesome. Yeah, I'll get it out and I'll let it proof for ours at room temp for maybe like 2 hours, just to kind of like get things going depending on the temperature of the room or the season. And then throw it in the fridge at least overnight. 2 days I like a lot, but we're also at the mercy of commissary life is a shared space. So I only have so much fridge room, So by the time we add cases of cheese, cases of pepperoni, bins of dough, everything just kind of adds up. So I usually only get a day or two out of the dough. 3 days is really nice.
Yeah, for sure. I know if I'm making pizza at home, I got a little bit more of a luxury because I'm only making pizza for me or a friend. I'm not making pizza for...
you can go a week if you want. You're good, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, for sure. Ooh, and I want to get to that kind of trade-off of time and flavor. But so when you're mixing your dough and you let it sit out for about 2 hours or so, that's usually bulk fermenting, right? Or
yes.
just all in one
Yeah,
piece?
we just ferment them in tubs.
So after you do that bulk ferment for 2 hours out, do you then divide it up into pans and then do the cold ferment in
Nope.
pans?
Nope. I just leave it as a bulk. I'll do like 1 or 2 stretch and folds on it before it goes in the fridge.
Yeah.
Just to kind of, get that gluten just really built up, and it makes a nice texture out of it. And then just throw it in the fridge that way, because comes down to some of our process again is unique, just being in a food truck and doing it out in the heat and everything. Like I said, we've learned how to manage time and dough where we just get it out of there. And since we need it into a rectangle anyway, so I don't really turn it into balls, because that's
Sure.
just time and space, and I just have to change it later anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll just cut it right out of the dough bins, weigh it, throw it in a pan in the bus like before the gig, and then it's usually so warm in there by the oven. We have some racks, and we just proof it back there. Kind of acts as our like proofing box back there by the oven.
Yeah,
so.
because you got to let it warm up a little bit before you throw it in the oven after you take it out of the fridge, right?
Yep. Let it sit for like an hour, and then we'll do the final push just to get all the dough to the edge and everything. After that, it rises basically until it's used, anywhere from an hour to 3 hours, depending on the shift. Then it just puffs up all nice in there, and that's pretty much all we do. Try not to overdo it. Try to keep everything simple. I've added things, and I've done the diastatic malts and non-diastatics and all these things that you're talking about. Just for us, just keeping it simple seems to work the best, even down to the process.
Sure.
I used to try to ball that dough, and it just like, for me, it's like I'm turning this into a rectangle, and it's just like weird, and I have to do multiple stretches with it. Why don't we just cut it out? Cut that whole process out and save space and time. So
yeah. I have, again, going down the pizza development rabbit hole, I've bought a couple of those pans too, and
Good.
They work great. Baking is definitely a science.
yes,
And especially with pizza, not only are you trying to be exact with your individual ingredients, and then like you were saying, if it's warmer or colder or whatever, you may have to adjust. And I definitely want to talk about that, because I'm very curious about how you see when you need to adapt. But how big is the dough portion in this case, because we're not balling it, that you
Right.
put in that 8x10 pan?
I weigh everything in grams. Just I like the metric system. It
Sure.
makes a lot of sense to me. So
Math works much better that way.
Metrics so superior. I love it.
Yes.
But yeah, we go 255 grams, give or take. Just a couple here and there is not going to make a huge difference.
Sure.
I believe it's just under 9 ounces. I think
Gotcha.
might be 8. Again, I just go grams. I don't really remember. So
No, I like the 255 because for me personally, I've kind of fallen in love with doing like a 250 at home, just because in my head that the math works out even easier.
250 to 260. If you're proofing it right, that's like, because even then, if depending on the dough you made, it can still be pretty bready.
Sure.
Then it's fine, but then it's like so tall and so bready. You got to put a lot of stuff on there to kind of balance everything.
Yeah, and even if I'm doing like we'll say a Neapolitan-ish or a New York style or something, that size of ball tends to make a decently sized pizza where you can get a good crust on it still, but it's not too giant for my home oven, which is helpful.
Yeah.
So 250, 255, and we mentioned hydration earlier, so that being how much water per your quantity of flour that you're putting in. So if I've got 1,000 grams of flour and I've got 750 grams of water, then I'm at a 75% hydration, right? Okay,
Perfect.
cool. So how about Izzy's dough? What do you shoot for?
Right about 69 right now. I try to go. I like low 70s, but again, with this climate here, I've had to go down in it just a little bit, especially for the summer.
Yeah.
Right now, we're 68, 69, somewhere right in there. Winter, I'd say we're more 71, 72, a little bit higher.
Being that it's warmer now as we are talking, and you said you've had to scale back a little bit on the water. Why? What happens if you're still up at 71% or something along those lines?
Just everything out in that bus when it's like well over 100 degrees and that dough's sitting there, it just kind of starts to get hot, and the yeast, when it's that warm, it just starts eating everything, and then just gets spent a lot quicker, so that dough's going to sink. So for us, we're looking to try to get as puffy and a cloudy pizza, as like I say, out of it as we can. So if it sits there too long, once you add those toppings on there and it's not a par bake, it's just going to start sinking because it's got no strength left.
Oh, so the yeast has already burned through its yeasty ability.
Yeah, it's so warm in there, and it's already been fermenting for a day or two or whatever anyway.
Yeah.
It's almost at its life then. In that case, if it's getting to that point and we have some time, we will par bake those and then still use them the same day, and they're still really awesome if you do that.
Yeah.
Like same day par bakes are really good. But otherwise, yeah, it just comes down to once you add some weight on there, it's just going to deflate and die. So
Gotcha. And that kind of makes sense too when we're talking about, aging, cold fermenting in the fridge or whatever. Because if you let it go too long, the yeast is still going to be done, but you get more flavor the longer it sits there and ferments. So there's a balancing act that you're playing there for strength and flavor as well.
And with the water too, like you're asking, like I guess finally answering that, I kind of went off.
That's all good.
But it's just the dough will be a little drier, therefore just have a little bit more structure to it during the summer. So if I just put less water in there, essentially, you can do a little more and get away with a little more when it's not dying as quickly in the winter.
You were mentioning even trying different types of yeast. So depending on the yeast that you get, it's going to react differently as well.
Totally. And I hear that's a big benefit of, using some sort of a starter, like a sourdough starter or whatever you're going to use. Would like to start playing with it a lot. Just, time isn't on my side for some of these experiments that we need to do. But I would love to. I know that it would lead to a much more stable and more consistent dough over time for sure as I get used to it. So would love to experiment with that.
So you're using a dry yeast. Is it like an active dry yeast or an instant yeast or
We're using active dry yeast. I've tried both. I like the performance and the flavor with the active dry yeast. So I just bloom it with a little warm water, let that sit for 15 minutes before I add it to the batch.
It's kind of interesting because you're saying switching between summertime at like 68 or whatever, then the wintertime like 71. That's not a lot of percentage points difference, but yields such a taste and performance difference in the dough. But that's not a big tweak.
Most people probably won't even notice it. It's just we do, like I do, because we touch so many thousands of them, like all the time. So it's like you just really notice that change for us, especially just down the line. We're trying to make them look as consistent and as awesome as possible. And like 3 hours into the shift, they start looking a little flatter. You're like, oh, and that's, where all this learning comes from. It's just like, okay, a few hours in, is it holding up like it was at the beginning? Nope. All right. Well, let's try less water. Let's try less yeast. Let's try different flour.
The other thing is too, food truck life, food bus life in this case too, is you're already out of the commissary. Like the dough is on the bus.
Yep.
Right. So you're going. Whatever you've got in there is what you're rolling with, pretty much, right?
Yeah, that's it. I like to say this is our band, kind of. So like we're going to do our shows, So it's like, oh, we gotta go and we gotta set up for the gig, and it's like, oh, we'll talk to you later. We got,
Yeah.
So it's like, what if the microphone goes out? You know what I mean? It's the same kind of thing. You just roll with it. That's part of the fun of the job too. That's why I like doing the mobile thing. Kitchens are cool and everything, but I don't know, something about that life for just moving around, and I feel like it's going to make me and our crew and anyone that works on a food truck much better of for me, a pizza cook, because of the different climates and the different things we've had to do to adapt.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If we ever do get some kind of a room, it's like hopefully I'll be able to rock it because we'll have something consistent with everything we learned. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're like you said, you're able to adapt to just about anything because you have to.
We have. I mean, we've cooked in the desert. I've cooked in the middle of, literally in the middle of the desert, in a sandstorm.
Oh my gosh.
We've cooked in blizzards and snow. We've, like back and forth, like heat, rain, hail, name it, so yeah, it's been cool.
Well, and I like the fact too that, for those that haven't seen the bus is super fun. I mean, first of all, it's a bus. So
it's a bus.
It's a bus, and it's a cool looking bus because you've got the red and yellow happening. You've got the big Izzy's Pizza Bus letters
to vibe it out
there.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You've got I love the swing out pizza stop sign.
Right, I don't use it enough.
That thing is awesome.
My daughter painted it. It's a little faded. We told her she have to update it soon. So.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Getting her to contribute to the bus.
Yeah,
that is fantastic.
She's Izzy, by the way, if anyone doesn't know.
So the reason Izzy's Pizza Bus is Izzy's Pizza Bus is because of daughter Izzy.
You got it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So there is the history behind the behind.
And
the
she
name.
helped create the sauce too. So
really,
that's a fun fact. Yep.
Oh, super fun.
Sat down. Couldn't settle on which kind of seasonings we wanted to use in there, whatever. Sat down with 4 or 5 bowls one night, just like try this one, try this one, try this one. And the one she picked is the one we use, and people love it, and we love it. And it's the simplest one. It's just 7-Eleven tomatoes, garlic, and sea salt, and that's it.
That's
Super
fantastic.
basic. So.
Yeah, I actually had ordered a side the last time I was out there and got. I just went for a cheese pizza, the classic, and then got a side of sauce. And I'm pretty sure I caught a nice slice of garlic, and with that sauce. So
Nice.
And in true Pizzaolo fan too, the ingredients are making sure that got to start with quality to come out with quality on the other end.
Absolutely.
And that's so cool that you're just that. Also, I guess it's Occam's razor. The simplest solution is usually the best.
And that's perfect. That's what I was saying earlier. Like, there's no reason to, overdo a lot of this stuff, especially with pizza. If you just get good stuff, you can keep it really basic and simple, and it's amazing.
That's wonderful. And so in the bus, so you have 2 ovens in there? Or is there
just the one. It
just
has
the one?
Four decks on it.
4 decks.
but
Okay, that's
Sometimes I feel like I'm rocking it like there's 2 ovens in there. Jeez. Yeah.
And how many pizzas can the bus slang in a day?
In a full day, I mean, we're still getting to that point, especially now with this new mixer. Per shift, we do a 3 to 4 hour shift usually when we'll go out to a bar or brewery or whatever. We're at about 120 right now is about our max with
Wow.
our space in there.
Wow.
By the time you stack up all those pans, put all that cheese and ingredients and meat in the fridge, everything's just maxed out. So that's about it. But it's still a lot. 120 pizzas in 3 to 4 hours is a lot of pizza.
Yeah, that's wild, and that's one of those things where, as a budding home pizza maker, is that I've had a goal for myself of cooking pizza once a week, and I'll turn out 3 or 4 pies a week just to make sure I'm consistently learning, consistently trying. I mean, you get that done like before,
But that feels like a lot, right?
It does.
Even when I do it at home now, and I make 2 or 3, I'm like, man, this is so much work because I have a little outdoor oven that I just
nice.
bought. So playing with my little uni in the backyard, those are cool if you don't have one. But yeah, just making a few for that. So I know how it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Make me feel a little bit better here too, because I suppose running it at scale is a little bit different. But even starting, you still are weighing everything out, portioning everything out.
Still takes the same amount of time.
Yeah. True.
It's like time wise, you're spending the same amount. Really, you just have different equipment and sizes. That's all.
That's true. That's a good point. Thank you for
What
that.
what would you save, like 3 minutes on a mix by doing a bigger mix? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, as long as you got the bigger mixture, you're good.
You're
to
still
go.
hustling the pizza life. I like it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you were mentioning the time put in that you have to wait for the result.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this the other day, and pizza reminds me a lot of barbecue. A lot of the really good barbecue places, we've got a couple around town where you're spending hours and hours, maybe 12, 18, 24, whatever it is, smoking this meat, and then that's how long you have to see what happens. And although with barbecue you can still make some adjustments in there, once you get the dough together for pizza, it's going.
Oh yeah, things like that. Yeah, you're done.
Yeah,
There'd be a few catastrophic things, of course, with the barbecue, but
sure.
If you don't have dough, you can't literally do anything.
Can't do anything.
At least maybe you'd have a different meat or something. But yeah,
That's true.
we've done that too. Like, I think it was one of our last events at one of our favorite places in Las Vegas before we moved here. We got there and just that dough wasn't rising. It was literally like those like $1.50 like Totino's pizzas at like Walmart or whatever. It was like that thick. It wouldn't do anything. I don't know what was wrong. But yeah, we had to cancel because of that. So
wow.
yeah, it happens.
Wow. So you in that case, you're like, no, sorry, this isn't an Izzy's pizza. We're not.
So we can't even open it all. Like we don't have anything to use. So
yeah, and like barbecue, you put in all that work and time, and then you're open up. Once you're done for the day, like on barbecue, you sell out a brisket, you sell out a pulled pork. Same thing with pizza.
Yep.
You only have so many because it's going to take you another 2 days, 3 days to get the next batch ready to go.
Yep.
Wow.
And I think that every time we go to like one of the breweries that we vend at or something, like the time, those guys have as well. It's like, think of, weeks to months, and then it comes out and hopefully it's awesome.
Yeah.
Usually it does. I mean, everyone's pretty skilled, with the same experience as us, pizza makers. So,
if folks are enjoying a pizza from Izzy's, from any place that does put the extra days and time and hour and heart into that pizza, it comes out in that product. And there's a reason that you're not getting a pizza for $1.50, because the labor and ingredients and everything that you have to put in there
right.
is multifold. Like
That
30.
love costs money. Like not everyone
Yeah.
that makes pizza is doing it for the love of pizza. So
Right.
trying to do that and trying to give pizza the proper respect as a food that it's due, that some of us pizza nerds feel, that's the way it should be done. Because there's already frozen pizzas and stuff out there. Like, why am I trying to make a cheap one?
Yeah.
Like, there's no point in that. I started making pizza because I wanted to eat it every day, and I was sick of paying for it. So why would I want to chase the cheap version?
Yeah.
And that's just translated into the business. You can tell when you eat it. As a customer of any food, really.
Yeah.
Like, when they're using good stuff. You can tell.
Your sauce to me is very bright. It's not an afterthought. It's a
Right.
purposeful ingredient, and
Yep.
I enjoy that about it. And the same thing with the cheese. There's some pizzas that you eat that it's just like, oh, okay, there's some stringy something or other on here. And that's one of the things for me attempting a pizza at home. And I've done this with an Izzy's pizza. And I've done this with other pizzas too, so not just unique to Izzy. But I'll take a fork and I'll grab some of that Mott's,
Yeah.
or whatever type of cheese is on there.
Yep.
And it's like, can I taste it? Does it have a good amount of salt? I like something that has just a
Yep.
little bit of saltiness to it, something that's really tasty. There's a good on its own. And is the sauce good on its own? Is the crust good on its own? And I enjoy your pizza very much for those things. In fact, I may have been known to grab a slice, take the toppings off, and just enjoy the crust all by
Good.
itself.
Do it, man. Do it.
And the
However you do it is how you do it.
without stepping on some type of Hershey's copyright, there's no incorrect way to eat an Izzy's pizza.
Right? Right? You got it.
Well, I did have a question regarding that crust from, we'll say, a fan of the show.
Okay.
And she wanted to know how the interior is so fluffy. How is it so fluffy?
Yeah, I mean, if we've done it right, if it came out right, it definitely should be at least somewhat fluffy. It's just that pan proofing, like putting it in there and just not. If you're going to leave it in the fridge for a day or 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever you're going to do, it's nature's doing work in there. So why take it out and smash all that work? You might as well have not let it do all that work. You might as well throw in a dough relaxer in there and made it same day and called it done. So just letting nature do all that fermentation and build all those gases in there, and then trying not to kill as little of that as possible, and then let it kind of rebloom a little bit before we use it.
Yeah.
I think that's just the key that I've found for our dough, in particular, is just trying to keep it up there. That's how we do it. Just trying not to kill it, because nature's doing its thing and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I just want to see it blossom in the oven, and then kill it in there.
Right. Well, you fed it very, very well, and it has hit the end of its wonderful life as a pizza crust. So that is good there.
And that all comes down to the the nerdy stuff again, the flour blend and just the experience and the right amount of everything. It's just cooking tons and tons and tons of different ones and making them until it's right. So
Yeah.
keeping a notebook, definitely, like for you, keep a notebook, learn what the weather was that day, what the flour was you used, if you liked it, if you hated it, what it did, all that stuff.
Adjusting to the temperature outside and stuff, and maybe you don't have to do this as much because you've made it so often, but after you do your first mix in the mixer and you're about to bulk ferment, do you take the dough's temperature before you let it mix to see what the temperature
I pretty much
post-mix
base
came out to?
everything. I mean, making dough is still a form of cooking, so it's all time and temp still.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. Everything is time and temp. I temp the water before it goes in. I kind of know the flour just because of the room.
Sure.
So I don't have to temp that, but get the right temp of water. And then I pretty much mix to a certain temperature. I don't have a fancy enough mixer to have that. Some of them have that. It's like,
What?
it'll
They
stop
have
it.
like a temperature sensor?
Yeah,
in
it'll
the-
stop at
Oh.
whatever temperature your target is and stuff. But yeah, that's what I'm aiming for. Right now, I like around 72 degrees Fahrenheit for a temp. So, I know where to start the water, where 10 to 12 minutes, whatever down the line, it's going to be 72 degrees when it's done. So
Yeah, because you have to calculate for the friction from the mixing process is going to
heats
things
it up because it's moving everything. That's another thing about those spiral mixers. They won't do that crazy like your your KitchenAid style is a planetary style mixer that
Right.
just kind of whips everything a bit.
Yeah.
So it warms it up more.
Yeah.
It's another reason I like the spiral. It's just a little calmer.
Yeah, and well, especially because you're going to cold ferment your dough. You don't want to heat it up too much because then kind of like we were talking about the temperature outside being hot, if the yeast start going crazy, they're going to expend themselves before they get a chance to just slowly cold ferment and make that whole thing happen.
I mean, if you use a lot colder water with one of those style mixers, you'd be okay. But yeah, otherwise it's going to start going really quick. You got to get it into the fridge fast.
Do you use a filtered water, a tap water, or do you have a preference out there? Because I've heard tell that like if you have too much mineral in your water, that your dough might not be as extensible, something that you can stretch nicely. It might be more elastic, meaning that it wants to pull back on itself. Where granted, in this case, you're not doing a ball and a hand stretched as much, but it still needs to be able to nicely spread out.
Still needs to relax and do its thing for sure. I just use tap water. Most places have perfectly fine tap water. You can get all that information on the municipal water, websites for pretty much any city. And you can look it up and it's fine. If you want to adjust something here or there, you can. There's stuff you can, add, or you can learn a few tricks at Pizza Expo. And like I was saying, I went to a water class and learned all that. So, putting your water out and leaving it open, get the oxygen out of there or something. There's different things you can do. You can also just buy jugs of filtered water.
Sure.
If you like the way one performs, you can find that pH information and their mineral information. So if you just kind of like one of those, that's what I was doing in Las Vegas for a little while.
Yeah.
I had to keep it in the fridge to keep it cold anyway. So I figured for consistency's sake, I'd just start buying like cases of whatever it was, Arrowhead or something at Costco.
Oh, sure.
You can literally use anything. Just see if one works better or not. Likely, unless you're making a ton of them, you're not going to notice much of a difference. The temperature is what you want to watch more than where you got it from, in my experience.
So we were talking about flours and blending flours and those type of things, and a lot of people talk about the protein percentage in flour, and depending on what style of pizza you make, or honestly, having read a billion different books now, it just really depends on the pizziolo, the person using it, really how much protein they want. So do you have a protein percentage that you shoot for in your flours, or what do you kind of look for in that space?
I don't honestly nerd out too hard on the gluten or the percentage profiles. Like I kind of go for like what styles of flours, like a patent or a bread flour. Right now we're mixing a white wheat flour with a patent flour, which is very similar, like basically a bread flour.
Yeah.
I like the white wheat because I like to get some like whole wheat in there, but like straight up whole wheat flour is a little bit heavy and chewy for our style of pizza, I felt. Yeah. And the white wheat still has a lot of that strength and structure while just not being quite so heavy. Yeah. So I'll blend some of that in there, and it's very heavy protein as well, so that boosts up the protein and the gluten a little bit. And then just the bread flour for the rest of it right now. I'm again just kind of going visually on a lot of it. I just know what I'm looking for, so I'm kind of just blending, till I find it. Yeah. Haven't found it. We'll see if I ever find it. But.
I think the pursuit, I've definitely heard it said that, there is no perfect pizza. It's the pursuit of perfection. And that's, fun is that journey of, figuring out.
It's so fun. Have you not eaten like a bunch of good pizza, right? Just trying to figure it out. Right? Yes, even the bad ones are probably still awesome.
Even the bad ones are still awesome. I tried to do a Chicago style, and I had the right pan and the whole bit.
Yep.
And the sides of the cornicione, the crust actually fell off the sides of the pan and folded in.
Oh, nice.
I did it with something that kind of looked like a pie. It was still good.
Still awesome, right?
Yeah.
It's still those same ingredients. I'm still gonna eat it. Okay, it didn't work out, but
yeah.
Still a pizza.
It wasn't production ready, but it was still tasty.
Yeah, so. Right.
Well, and it seems like there's a running joke too as far as launching pizzas. Which one thing about doing a pizza in a pan is you don't have to worry about that as much. But
we can get into all the details why I like pans.
Yeah. There's like a running joke, right? If you screw up launching a pizza in the oven, you just make a calzone. That seems to be the running thing. And
there you go.
So nothing wrong with a calzone.
Nah,
either,
just fold it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell them you did that on purpose.
That's right.
Oh, that was this new thing I'm working on.
Yeah, it's a calzone special today. So, well, when you're putting your dough in those 8x10 pans, and the Detroit style pan has kind of those trapezoidal structures to it, kind of a higher edge that lets that cheese get around the edges of the crust there and get in and get that nice crispy pizza or frico on the outside there, right? It's
frico.
called. Yeah, exactly. That super crunch that adds a salty, crunchy element to the pizza because a Detroit style pizza has so many different things, be it the sauce being saucy and the cheese being a little more stringy and the dough being fluffy and the crunchy on the outside. Many things there. So tried making focaccia, doing a pan style recently, last couple of weeks. And one of the things that I had read and seemed to experience is you put the dough in the pan, and then you can get a lot of air underneath of the dough. And one of the things I've heard and tried seemed to work was lifting up the dough a little bit to kind of push some of that air out of there. Do you have to do the same thing for a Detroit style? And how do you make that work so you make sure that the thing lays flat and does what it's supposed to do?
Touch thousands of them and realize what it feels like to have that little bubble under there. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And if you're not paying attention, you'll definitely just leave it there, and then you'll find that like a pizza that's totally domed in the oven. Like,
oh wow!
Basically, that bubble just grew under there, and your pizza's now shaped like this, like the dome at the zoo. Like it's crazy. But no, you just when you're pushing, you can kind of just see one other part of the dough like start to pop up. You're like, oh, there's a little air under there. So yeah, exactly like you're saying. Just kind of lift one side very gently, where you're not squeezing the junk out of it.
Yeah.
And just lift it up, let that air escape, lay it back down.
And how do you make sure you do that without the dough attaching to your hand or ruining the inflation? Is there, or is it just the dough works well enough that you don't have to worry about that? You can just pick it up and it's not so sticky?
Yeah, but we use a blend of canola oil and extra virgin olive oil in our pans. Some people use Crisco and stuff just to get it to stick to the edge and all that. I don't really like the way that cooks.
Sure.
I like what the oil does to it.
Yeah.
It almost kind of like fries it a little bit.
Yeah.
A tiny bit on the bottom. It's just yummy. I like it. That being said, there's oil on my fingers when I'm touching the dough, so it doesn't stick.
Got you. You're all set. And that was one thing that I had pretty good luck in making the focaccia because it's full of olive oil everywhere. So it wasn't sticking to anything.
There's no way it's sticking to you. If it does, yeah,
we got a problem.
Yeah, you're magic. Yeah,
I'm probably more likely for the dough just to shoot off the pan from being too oiled than I am for it to stick. So that's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of people will use the Crisco or whatever. Just it makes the process easier. I just don't like the way it cooks, and you can actually get a lot of those bubbles you're talking about under there because it has stuck so much to the edge. It lets you push the dough out a lot quicker because it just is really tacky. But
yeah.
I don't know. For me, it just didn't work for us.
So you've got the dough in the pan, and you said that for your pizza, you don't par bake usually. You put that in there, you get your toppings right on, and throw it in, and ready to go.
After it's proofed up about a third of the way up the pan, that's pretty much ready to rock. Yeah, we'll just and everything's weighed or counted. We try to portion everything. If you've come multiple times or even seen our photos, it's pretty consistent. We try to keep everything. You know what you're going to get when you come to us.
So what temperature are you cooking your pizzas at in the pizza bus?
Right around 500. Keep it right around there. Our oven fluctuates a bit here and there depending on how many pizzas are in there. Pizzas steal the heat. Dang pizzas.
Always taking your heat.
So yeah, right around 500.
That's something that you can attempt in the home oven because your home oven's going to hit 500.
Yeah, you can use a stone or a baking steel, which I highly recommend over a stone for anyone.
I have a steel. I love it.
Oh yeah, just spend the money and get one. It'll last your entire life.
Before I had the steel, I had 2 stones, and one just completely blew up and cracked the other day, and the steel won't.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, cracking
a steel. I dare you. Yeah. No, they're awesome, and they cook really well, and they retain heat really well. They're very heavy, but you can just leave them in your oven unless you need the space. That's what we did. But you don't even need that. You can just literally, because it's a pan, you just throw it in the oven. Just preheat your oven for half hour, 45 minutes. You're good.
I mean, you could start buying a backyard pizza oven, but you can start your pizza journey at home with the
equipment
you
do it in a toaster oven.
Yeah.
I would take it to my job at Cirque that I used to have and just cook them in the toaster oven in the break room. I'd cook 8x10 Detroit in the toaster oven, So, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I like pan pizza, but that's one of the cool things about it.
The other thing with a pizza like that, too, if you want to load it up with toppings, you can. Although I would assume that because, like you said, you want to maintain the oven spring, the fluffiness factor there. you could probably only get so many toppings on there before you might have to par-bake it ahead of time to load it up, right?
No, yeah,
So-
big time. Like we have one that's called the Baby Love. It's our supreme pizza, but it's just too much on there in my opinion. People love it, so I keep it on there. I would honestly cut it in a heartbeat and not even blink. It's just too much. There's a limit to balance, you know? That one's starting to push it for me. I like 3 or 4 things on there.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you can drizzle something or put some ricotta cheese or something on top that's different than just like tons of meat or tons of whatever on there. Like that's just throwing stuff on for the sake of you being hungry. You know, it's like, which is fine. But yeah, there's something about balance. That's what we try to do.
Totally agree. And that way you can taste those different ingredients. And especially with a pizza where 2 slices, maybe 2.5 are going to fill you up too. If you start loading on too many toppings, I mean, that's going to be, that's a heavy slice.
Right.
So.
Yeah. You should be pretty good with 2 slices. I mean, if not, more power to you, but
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. If you're super
maybe
hungry.
eat an apple or something, fruit, like grab something on the side.
Speaking of that and the good luck on a typical Izzy's pizza or, you know, Detroit style or yours, because you know the ratios, how much cheese are you putting on that little 8x10 pizza?
240 grams. We recently went up just a tiny bit because the cheese pull was dope, so I kept it. I accidentally put that much on. I was like, I kind of like it. It cooked well. So
Yeah.
240 grams. So
you almost have an even ratio, close,
Almost.
or dough to cheese ratio
almost.
to get that right cheese pull that you want.
But any less, and it's kind of just like too bready. Any more, and it's too heavy and oily. So, you know, it's all about that balance.
That is one thing that I learned attempting the aforementioned resultant pie Chicago style. I went ahead for the full fat mozzarella instead of using the part skim.
It's pretty wet, right?
It was a grease pool. It needed some serious help. So be careful with that. So
Yep. Yeah, and that's I mean, we have a blend of cheese. Ours is a brick cheese and a mozzarella, but the mozz is whole milk. So it's one thing that's really bothered me for a long time. I'm kind of over it now because it just is what it is, and you can't get that flavor without it. But is kind of the liquid or the grease underneath some of the pizzas sometimes. We use a really nice liner. It's called Perfect Crust Liner. It soaks up the grease nice, kind of keeps the crust as good as it can.
Oh, fun.
But yeah, just the fact that whole milk cheese and the brick cheese and the pepperoni, you know, all that just adds up.
Yeah. For those that are not familiar, can you talk about brick cheese? Because that's not something you can just go to your standard grocery store and just buy usually.
Not here. Like Illinois, Wisconsin, you can just go grab it, and it's, you know, just with all the other cheese. It's a Wisconsin cheese. It's very similar to, some people say it's very similar to a Mott's. I find it saltier and creamier, more buttery. In a substitution, I like to use Munster. The outside, the orange rind outside is different on a Munster, but otherwise the inside's like kind of similar.
Interesting.
Soft, creamy, buttery, salty, yummy.
Yeah, and it's interesting, those kind of regional cheeses, like a St. Louis style pizza with the Provel, which is sort of a Velveeta type, you know, construction there. So totally different.
Yeah, kind of a regional thing. I don't honestly know why they don't ship it out or make it in other places. You can very seldom find it anywhere besides like Illinois, Wisconsin, maybe Indiana, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Obviously Michigan, because Detroit style pizza, and they clearly had it, you know, because they invented it. So yeah, I don't know. It's just really yummy. Like, yeah, you should try to be there when we're shredding cheese and just like, I'll eat a little piece of this one, little piece of this one. Super good.
I may have to come and see over there. I definitely be
check out
be
the
willing
process.
to,
I'll feed you some ingredients in the meantime.
Please, I'd be willing to work for cheese. I'm good for that.
That's easy. You're cheap.
Yeah. Oh,
it's cheap labor. Come on in.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's so cool. Well, and last time I was up there, you actually invited me on the bus, which was cool. So I kind of got to see a little bit of the behind the scenes. You know, we just got to talk for a little bit as middle of service.
Yeah.
And
you're always welcome to come check it out, man.
I appreciate that. It's just fun, and I love the fact that you're willing to share, and you know, you grew your own pizza process and refining it and continually learning in pursuit of what you want for pizza. And I think what's nice is there's room, maybe not in your stomach every day, but there's room in the world for all the different styles and types, because there are so many. And I love the community and the ethos of pizza. Is fantastic.
Absolutely. And there's always room for more pizza.
Always room.
And I'll encourage you to open one right next door to me. Let's do it. Let's get a pizza party going down the block. You know,
I love it.
have a whole line of them going. Yeah. just because you're a pizza lover too. I was like, we can just eat it all the time. I'll go to this place one day, this place one day. So I think that's another reason there's a cool community behind pizza. Is just to us, there's really not any shortage. Like, we can keep going pretty easily.
I'm so glad what yourself and so Izzy's and I think really Backlot are probably the only two places around that serve a Detroit style pizza in Omaha.
I believe so, that I know of right now. Yeah.
Yeah, but Omaha's pizza. I mean, we've always had tasty pizza here, and there's lots of there's the actual literal tasty pizza. But it's so cool to see in the last 5 years or so, Izzy's coming on the scene and things like that. The variety that you can get in Omaha now, it's not just one type.
Awesome.
There's all sorts of things.
I feel like I came here at just the right time, like, because
for sure
I'm gonna go eat it all too.
Yeah,
I'm down.
Yeah,
it's nice. There's quite a few places that are opening, and I think there's one or two more opening soon. Yeah, it's there. Yeah, there is. I know of at least two more newer places opening soon. So yeah, the variety is really cool right now. David from Virtuoso and some other people, and we've all set up a Metro Omaha Pizza Alliance as well.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's just basically a whole group of pizza shop owners in town, the independents, again, none of the chain type of thing. But a lot of the ones you've heard of, a lot of the ones you've talked about, everyone's invited. But yeah, we just kind of social hour, chat about business. We'll have a little, session of topics we might want to talk about, stuff going on.
Yeah.
Does anyone need help with this? We're trying to maybe even move into, maybe we have some kind of a labor pool, because, labor's a hard thing right now.
Super tough.
Some of us maybe have some pizza people that would like to share jobs, go over here one day. So
yeah,
a lot of ideas in the works. David's pretty much the head of it all, and he's kind of invited everyone else into the idea, and it's blossoming pretty cool. So
I love it.
Yeah, just another thing. Like, I love all styles of food, so I would never knock one, but there's not like the Omaha Cheeseburger Club. So it's like kind of cool to have this exclusive thing that we can go and just, talk about something. You have that shoulder to, like, I ask some of these guys questions all the time, like, why is my dough doing this? Or can you point me to a sales rep for this? Or, hey, do you have this? So
I love it. So not only is the pizza community in general helpful, the Omaha pizza community and kind of a microcosm here is really, helping each other and just helping make pizza better and helping small business and just good things across the board.
Absolutely.
It's
yeah,
fantastic.
we just we want everyone to just know we're all trying and we're all making awesome pizza here. So let's just do it all together and just make it a thing.
Well, Brett Geiger of Izzy's Pizza Bus, if people need to see what's going on with the bus and try to locate your pizza in case you're not at Trucks and Taps or wherever you are, how do people find you?
Yeah, come find us. We're the only ones making pizza in a school bus in town. So if you see if you see us rolling around, follow me if you want. Yeah, follow me online, Izzy's Pizza Bus, either on Facebook or Instagram. Pretty active on both. I do post a schedule all the time. Don't worry, I will definitely get a schedule out. It's weird because we're a food truck. Some days we're here, some days we're there. A little variety. So just follow us on social media. You'll see any fun stuff we're doing, any new food, lots of stuff coming up. So just give us a follow and stay tuned.
Love it. And maybe some personal advice from me when ordering. You can often pre-order your pizza from Izzy's Pizza Bus.
Yes,
so you can secure your pizza.
We do a limited amount of pre-orders just to kind of get some orders worked in there and pace our night a little bit better than getting hit all at once. It kind of, because our pizza is a little wait time. So yeah, go on our website, izzyspizzabus.com. Typically just a few hours before our event, I'll open a select amount of pre-orders. That way you don't have to wait if you don't want. But we love when you come wait and you support whatever business we're at too. So Come out and just hang out and see us.
That's awesome. And, as we were mentioning, creating this dough takes days in advance. There's only so much that can be on the bus. So go and check one of these out. And I can guarantee that you will have a fun experience. I mean, just seeing the bus in general tends to put a smile on my face anyway. And then the fact that there's hot, delicious, tasty pizza coming out of that, for me, even better. So
try owning it. You just walk up to it every day. It's like, oh man, this thing smells and looks so cool. I still love it. It's my baby.
I love that fact because it's one of those those things where I was, always worried about maybe working at my favorite restaurant or whatever, that you get tired of it. But that's awesome to hear that you still
I love that thing.
turning that key.
When I go on vacation and I come back and I look at it, I'm like, there he is.
Home again.
That's my dude.
That's awesome. That is fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, because I know, life as a small business owner and restaurant owner and food truck owner, it just keeps going and going and going. So thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Of course. You too. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. And we'll sign it off like this. This is Dave Zorko with Saturday Omaha. And until we eat again, stay hungry and get some pizza. Bye.
Our show is recorded and produced by Saturday Omaha. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as email SaturdayOmaha@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and stay hungry.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.